Okay, so a little bit of information, extra information on the writer's statement, which is due Tuesday. Okay, Tuesday night. I'll put it up on Compass directly after we've finished talking about this. So I see two main aspects to the overall writer statement. The first is, what is the theme that you're looking at generally in terms that Shakespeare's exploring? And the second one is, how does your scene reinterpret what's happening there, okay? Because if this is done really well, there's going to be a clear link between what your group is doing, how you've interpreted it, if you're using lots of modern language and a bit of Shakespeare, or if you're using mainly Shakespeare and a bit of English, however you're going about doing it, there'll still be a really clear link to the play, okay? As in, it's designed to be a transformation and interpretation, but it's not its completely own thing. The scene should still be representative of the types of themes and ideas that are being explored in the original. All right? So, if I was doing the writer statement, the first bit I'd look at, what is the primary theme that I was interpreting? So some people have said they're looking at madness or looking at love or looking at deception, all those types of things. Remember that a theme is more than just a topic. Love is a topic, okay? Madness is a topic. A theme is, what is the author saying about that topic? All right, so it could be the complexity of love. All right? And like we were saying the other day, try and avoid simplifying too much, okay? Like, this is a play that's very much about the nature of love and the nature of relationships. And there's a lot of great happy people in love, but it's also about the complexity of those things and how the things only last for a moment in time, okay? Hence, at the end, even though there's all these happy people, that actually there's that song about the rain that keeps on going in those cycles. Okay, so what is the theme you're looking at? How does Shakespeare introduce, develop, and conclude this? Okay, so what are some of the main ways in the play that comes through? What evidence do you have of that? Okay, just like anything else, it'll be shorter because it's only a shorter thing overall. But if you're saying that Shakespeare's saying something, then you should have some evidence to back that up. Remembering, these are fantastic. These are actually fantastic, these books, but don't quote the interpretation. Right? If you're quoting Shakespeare, you're quoting the Shakespearean language. And then talk about how your scene fits into that overall theme. Okay? So how does your scene fit into it? How does what you're doing modernize and capture that? And some people have even said, or it might be a good idea to talk about, you're doing one scene, but you could imagine this as part of the whole thing. Okay? Obviously, you're only doing one scene, but some people have talked about, I don't want to give away anyone's topic, so I'm not going to say anything specific, but they're changing it to a certain context, or they're changing genders of characters for specific reasons, then this would be the area to be able to say, yes, we're doing this scene, but actually this is going to really pay off later on when such and such happens in the last scene. Does that make sense? So where would it fit in your overall production? The next thing is about the scene that you're doing in particular. And in this area, I'd really encourage you to think particularly about Shakespeare's language and really around the figurative language. So all that language which paints pictures in our head, okay? In all of the scenes that you're looking at, Shakespeare uses lots of images in the dialogue, in the jokes, all those sorts of things, all right? So how does the scene that you created convey the theme that you're exploring? How have you transformed aspects of Shakespeare's language into a new context? All right, so if he's got a whole scene, which he does, where he uses food as a metaphor for something, all right, that there's a conversation going on. So if he's got a whole thing where he uses food for a metaphor, then it would be good if your context, if your transformation also makes sure that it captures that metaphor. Okay, that's what your really, really high level ones are going to do. Your AA plus for this will show that real clear connection to Shakespeare's language and to his use of language. The other thing is, how have you captured the sort of the cadence, the sound of Shakespeare? So you don't need to write Shakespearean with your interpretations, but like we said before, if you're looking at a scene where there's big dialogues and there's multiple things and monologue and things like that, you know, if you just reduce that down to one quick, yeah, she'll be right, mate, then you might do that for a purpose, in which case you might explain, but you also might make sure that you specifically talk about how does the language, the new language you're using, capture the same sort of rhythm of Shakespeare. Okay? This bit here I was talking about before, what sort of imagery, symbolism have you engaged in your area? Okay? And then this bit down the bottom, basically the boring stuff, but in English studies, it's the stuff that, especially in the second semester, we take for granted in terms of where you're working at with your English. Okay, so if you've got quotes, they're going to be embedded into sentences. They're not just going to be sticking at the end of sentences or just sitting by parts by themselves. Bearing in mind that I'd expect that there'd only be really short little quotes that you'd be using for any of this, because you don't have that many words to do it anyway, but maybe just references to words Shakespeare uses or just bits of phrases. Making sure that with your paragraphs, you have topic sentences. Okay? Every paragraph should always have a topic sentence, and for this one, you'll probably have 2 paragraphs. Obvious to say, but it's grammatically correct. And just as a last thing, you don't need to include any general discussion about how you made your product. Okay, it's not an evaluation. In other things you might talk about, we did this step to do these things, like so-and-so used the editor, and stuff that's interesting information, but you don't need any general information about how you made it, okay? If you did something specific with the video to help show a theme, that's something interesting to talk about, all right? But not, we went out into the Oval and we filmed it and we came back and blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't expect people to be writing about that anyway, but just be careful, because it can be a trick that you fall into. You'll just be wasting words. All right? So I'll just stop this one off now. Hello, anybody that's watching this, thank you for visiting my YouTube channel. Remember, like and subscribe.